A recipe for 10 banana nut muffins calls for 1 cup of flour. The number of muffins that can be made varies directly with the amount of flour used. There are 3.5 cups of flour available. How many muffins can be made? So let's look at it. First, in direct variation, the equation form for it is y equals kx, k being the rate of change. So let's substitute in what we have. We have our output of 10 muffins for 1 cup of flour. So let's substitute in 10 for y and 1 for x. So our rate of change, or k, is going to be 10. So the equation is y equals 10x. Now, if there are 3.5 cups of flour available and we're looking for how many muffins, we're going to substitute 3.5 in for x. So rewrite that as an improper fraction, so that's 7 over 2. So you'll get 70 over 2, which equals 35. So 35 muffins can be made. So let's type that in. Type in 35. That's the answer for number 1. Number 2, determine whether the equation represents a direct variation. If it does, find the constant of variation. We need to solve for y. Dividing everything by 2, which is what we need to do, we'll be left with y equals 3 over 2x plus 1/2. Since we have a plus 1/2 here, it is not a direct variation. The direct variation has a plus 0 here. And we generally write it as y equals kx, nothing being added. So this is not a direct variation. So I'm going to choose no. And that's number 2. Number 3, suppose y varies directly with x. Write a direct variation equation that relates x and y. Then find the value of y when x equals 18. So we have change of y over change of x. So y over x will have 7 over 6. Now the equation for direct variation is y equals kx. K is the rate of change, so replace that with 7 over 6. We have y equals 7 over 6x as our equation. Finding the value of y when x equals 18, multiply 7 over 6 by 18, and we'll get 21. So let's type all that in. So type in 7 over 6x, and then 21. And that's number 3. Number 4, graph the direct variation equation. We know our first point is 0, 0, because in the direct variation it always goes through the origin. Now we have, for the next point, we can substitute in 1 for x. 1 times 2 is 2, so where x is 1, y is 2, so 1, 2. Press save, check answer, and that's number 4. Number 5, the distance d you bike varies directly with the amount of time t you bike. Suppose you bike 11.8 miles in 1.25 hours. What is an equation that relates d and t, and what is the graph of the equation? So let's look at it. So direct variation equation is y equals kx. Change of y over change of x. We have miles per hour. Miles is change of y. Hours is change of x. Divide those two and you get 9.44. But since they want us to relate d and t, d is going to represent y and t is going to represent x. And then 9.44 is going to represent k. So my equation is going to be d equals 9.44t, which out of our choices, that is B. Now for the graph, we know it must start at 0, 0, which they do. Looking at our graphs, our choice is going to be D. A is not steep enough. Number 6, for the data in the table, tell whether y varies directly with x. If it does, write an equation for the direct variation. So what we do is we divide y by x for each pair. 18 divided by negative 10 is negative 1.8. Negative 1.8 divided by 1 is negative 1.8. Negative 36 divided by 20 is negative 1.8. So it does vary directly since they're all the same. The equation will be negative 1.8x. That's the answer for number 6. 7. For the data in the table below, does y vary directly with x? If it does, write an equation for the direct variation. So we divide each y by the x. So 5 divided by 2, 9 divided by 4, 11 divided by 5. Doing that gives me 3 different answers, so that means no, y does not vary directly with x. And that's number 7. 8. Suppose y varies directly with x. Write a direct variation equation that relates x and y. Then graph the equation. So let's do that. So we have change of y over change of x. So 9.8 is y, 1.4 is x. Divide them and you get 7. So y equals 7x for the direct variation equation. So let's graph that. So we type in 7x. Now we graph it. Start at 0, 0. Substituting 1 in for x, you'll get 7. So 1 up to 7. Press save. Check answer. And that's the answer for number 8. Number 9. Tell whether the two quantities vary directly and explain the reasoning. So the length of a car in inches and the length of the car in feet. So as the length of the car gets larger in inches, it gets larger in feet. So yes, it does vary directly. With one quantity increases, so does the other quantity. And that's the answer for number 9.